The world watches as war engulfs Ukraine. A conflict rooted in history reignited in 2014. Russia annexes Crimea. Backed by the West, Ukraine resists. Now a full-scale invasion. Cities bombed, civilians displaced, a humanitarian crisis unfolds. The world condemns Russia's actions. Sanctions cripple its economy, but amidst the chaos, a question arises. Why is the United States so invested in this conflict? Billions in aid flow into Ukraine. Is it purely humanitarian, or does a deeper motive lurk beneath the surface? The official narrative: the United States stands with Ukraine against tyranny, defending democracy on the world stage. But is that the whole truth? Critics argue there's more at play: strategic interests, economic gains, and a desire to maintain global dominance. This is the untold story. A story of power, resources, and the high-stakes game of geopolitics. A story that reveals the true extent of America's involvement in Ukraine. A story you won't hear on the evening news. To understand America's interest in Ukraine, we must first understand its geography. Ukraine sits at a crossroads, a bridge between Russia and Europe. For centuries, it's been a battleground for empires, a buffer zone between East and West. Control over Ukraine grants immense strategic depth. Russia, with Ukraine under its thumb, could project power deep into Europe. A nightmare scenario for NATO, a direct threat to the established order. This is why the United States watches so closely. Ukraine for the United States is a linchpin, a key to containing Russian influence, to preventing a resurgence of its former might. To maintain its grip on Europe, the United States needs Ukraine out of Russia's grasp. This is about more than just land, it's about geopolitics. It's about maintaining control in a rapidly changing world. And for the United States, Ukraine is a pawn they can't afford to lose. Beyond geopolitics, Ukraine boasts a treasure trove of resources. It's a land of fertile soil known as the breadbasket of Europe. Wheat, corn, barley. Ukraine feeds the world. Disrupt that and global food security is threatened. But the real prize lies beneath the surface. Ukraine sits on vast mineral reserves: iron ore, titanium, manganese, the lifeblood of modern industry. And then there's lithium, the white gold of the 21st century, essential for batteries powering our future. These resources are a strategic goldmine. The United States knows this. Control over these assets translates to economic leverage, technological dominance, and immense geopolitical power in the decades to come. This isn't just about supporting a democracy, it's about securing a future dominated by the West. It's about ensuring that these resources don't fall into the wrong hands, namely Russia or China. This is about maintaining an edge in a new era of great power competition. Europe's dependence on Russian gas is no secret. For decades, pipelines have pumped billions of cubic meters into the heart of Europe. This reliance gives Russia immense leverage, a trump card in the game of geopolitics. The US has long sought to break this dependence. Enter Ukraine, a potential alternative route for gas pipelines, bypassing Russia and reducing its grip on Europe. A strategic win for the US, bolstering its influence and weakening its rivals. But it goes beyond pipelines. The US is pushing its own liquefied natural gas, or LNG. Ukraine, with its access to European markets, represents a lucrative opportunity for American energy giants. Profits over peace, some might say. This is about reshaping the global energy landscape. It's about American dominance in a sector vital to global power. Ukraine, in this game, is a pipeline, a conduit for American ambition in the heart of Eurasia. Let's be blunt, war's big business. And the conflict in Ukraine is a bonanza for the American military-industrial complex. Billions of dollars in weapons are flowing into Ukraine, lining the pockets of defense contractors. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, General Dynamics, these companies are seeing their profits soar. The longer the war rages, the more weapons they sell, the more money they make. This is the dirty little secret no one wants to talk about. But it goes beyond just profits. These companies have a vested interest in keeping the conflict alive. A perpetual state of war justifies increased military spending, fat government contracts, and a constant demand for their deadly products. This is the military-industrial complex in action, a nexus of corporations, politicians, and military leaders, all profiting from war and conflict. And in Ukraine, they see a golden opportunity to advance their interests on the backs of Ukrainian suffering. America, land of the free, home of the brave, defender of democracy, champion of liberty. That's the image America projects on the world stage. And Ukraine plays a starring role in this narrative. By sending aid to Ukraine, the US positions itself as the benevolent superpower, standing up to the aggressor Putin. It's a powerful message, especially to its allies in Europe who feel threatened by Russia's actions. But this protector role goes beyond Ukraine. It's about maintaining America's global leadership. By intervening in conflicts, providing aid, and shaping the narrative, the US asserts its dominance, its influence, its right to lead. Critics argue this is just a guise, a way to mask self-interest as altruism. They claim the US is more concerned with its own power than with the fate of Ukraine or its people. A cynical view, perhaps, but one that resonates with many around the world. The conflict in Ukraine is a quagmire for Russia, a costly war of attrition, draining its resources, manpower and morale, and the United States knows this. Every dollar sent to Ukraine, every weapon delivered weakens Russia's position. Sanctions imposed by the United States and its allies are crippling the Russian economy. The ruble has plummeted, inflation is soaring, and ordinary Russians are feeling the pinch. This economic pressure is designed to weaken Putin's grip on power. But it's not just about economics. The war is exposing weaknesses in Russia's military. Its equipment is outdated, its tactics are flawed, and its soldiers are demoralized. The longer the conflict drags on, the more apparent these weaknesses become. This plays into America's long-term strategy of containing Russia, preventing it from challenging US hegemony. A weakened Russia is less likely to project power abroad, less likely to forge alliances with China, less likely to disrupt the established world order. While the bombs fall and the guns roar, a different kind of battle is being waged in Ukraine, a battle for technological dominance. And American tech giants are watching closely, sensing an opportunity amidst the chaos. Ukraine, with its young, tech-savvy population, has the potential to become a hub for innovation. And with Russia sidelined, American companies see a chance to move in, establish a foothold and dominate this emerging market. Imagine a future where Ukraine, rebuilt with American aid and investment, becomes a center for artificial intelligence, cloud computing and cybersecurity. A Silicon Valley on the Dnipro, churning out cutting-edge technology, all flowing westward. This is about more than just profits. It's about controlling the technologies of the future. Technologies that will shape the 21st century. The United States knows this, and they're not about to let this opportunity slip through their fingers. The conflict in Ukraine is not just a regional conflict. It's a symptom of a larger geopolitical shift. The world is fracturing, dividing into two opposing blocs, the US-led West and the Russia-China axis. Mistrust and suspicion run deep. Dialogue has broken down. Economic warfare is the new normal. And the conflict in Ukraine is a proxy war, a testing ground for these two competing visions of the world order. This new Cold War, however, is more complex, more unpredictable than its predecessor. The lines are blurred, the alliances are fluid, and the stakes are higher than ever. The future, it seems, is up for grabs. Will this conflict escalate into a wider confrontation? Will the world descend into a new era of global conflict? Or can we find a way to bridge the divide, to forge a new path towards peace and cooperation? The answers to these questions will determine the fate of the world for generations to come. Imagine a Ukraine stripped bare. No more javelins raining fire from the sky. No more HIMARS erasing Russian targets with pinpoint accuracy. No more billions from the United States propping up its battered economy. The impact would be swift and brutal. Ukrainian forces, outgunned and outmatched, would be forced to retreat. Cities already scarred by war would fall silent under Russian control. The dream of a free and independent Ukraine shattered. Millions more would flee their homes, becoming refugees in a world weary of war. The humanitarian crisis, already dire, would spiral into a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. And what of the Ukrainian spirit, the will to resist that has so inspired the world? Could it endure such a betrayal, such abandonment by its Western partners? Or would it wither and die, extinguished by the cold reality of realpolitik? For Putin, a United States withdrawal from Ukraine would be a resounding victory. Proof that the West is weak, divided, and unwilling to challenge his ambitions. A validation of his belief that Russia is destined to reclaim its place as a global power. With Ukraine back under its control, Russia would be emboldened. Its military, rearmed and re-energized, would pose a direct threat to NATO's eastern flank. The Baltic states, Poland, Romania, all would live in fear of the Russian bear. And it wouldn't stop there. The Russia-China axis would grow even stronger. They would challenge the United States on every front, from the South China Sea to the Middle East, eroding American influence and reshaping the global order. The world would enter a dangerous new era, one defined by great power competition, mistrust, and conflict. A world where might makes right and where democracy and freedom are under assault. The consequences of a US withdrawal from Ukraine wouldn't stop at Russia's borders. It would send shockwaves through the Western alliance, exposing deep divisions and calling into question America's commitment to its allies. European nations, already divided on how to handle Russia, would be further split. Some, fearing Russian retaliation, might seek accommodation with Moscow, undermining NATO's unity and weakening its resolve to stand up to aggression. The US, its credibility damaged, would find it harder to rally support for its foreign policy objectives. Its leadership role, already under scrutiny, would be called into question. The special relationship with Europe, the cornerstone of the post-war order, would be strained to its breaking point. The message would be clear. The US is no longer a reliable partner, no longer willing to bear the burden of global leadership. And in a world facing increasingly complex challenges, from climate change to pandemics, this retreat from global engagement would have profound and unpredictable consequences. The world, already grappling with multiple crises, would become even more volatile. From the Middle East to Africa to Asia and beyond, the ripple effects of a US withdrawal from Ukraine would be felt far and wide. China, emboldened by America's retreat, would seize the opportunity to assert its dominance. Taiwan would face increasing pressure, raising the specter of a conflict with a nuclear-armed power. Conflicts in Syria, Yemen, and elsewhere would likely intensify, fueled by a lack of US leadership. Humanitarian crises would multiply, overwhelming international organizations. The world would become a more dangerous and unpredictable place. A world where the rule of law is eroded and the future of humanity is uncertain. This is the high-stakes gamble if the US were to abandon Ukraine. The conflict in Ukraine poses a profound dilemma for the United States. We've seen the strategic interests at play, the economic factors, the geopolitical chess game being fought on Ukrainian soil. But at what cost? American blood and treasure are being poured into this conflict. Lives are being lost, families torn apart, billions of dollars spent on weapons and aid. Meanwhile, domestic challenges mount inflation, inequality, a fraying social fabric. Critics argue that the US is too quick to intervene in foreign conflicts, too eager to play the role of global policeman. They point to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, costly misadventures that have drained America's resources and damaged its standing in the world. Is Ukraine another such quagmire, another open-ended commitment that will bleed America dry? Or is it a necessary intervention, a vital stand against tyranny that will ultimately make the world a safer place? These are the questions that haunt America's conscience. The people of Ukraine are caught in a crossfire, their lives upended, their future uncertain. The world watches, holding its breath, wondering if this conflict will escalate. The stakes are too high for silence. The time for diplomacy, for dialogue is now. The US, Russia, Ukraine, Europe all must come together for peace. This is not about appeasement, nor is it about abandoning Ukraine. It's about recognizing humanity and seeking common ground. It's about choosing hope over fear, diplomacy over destruction. The path forward is fraught with challenges, but the alternative is unthinkable. The choice is ours to make. Let us choose wisely, for the sake of Ukraine, for humanity, for our future. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. And most importantly, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What should America's role be in the Ukraine conflict?